story about a movie that is oh so scary. Try not to have many scares, for it shall raise many of your hairs. Oh, excuse me. Man, I gotta lay off those bad jokes. I know, the rhyming thing is lame, and I'm gonna talk about a horror movie. It's summertime, I know. Whatever. It's geeking time. What's going on, guys? So, as the video hasn't been implied, as my opening and all that, as you saw, today I'm going to be talking about a little-known indie horror movie that was made about 11 years ago. Fantastic horror movie. This movie we're talking about today is Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. There's the poster. So let me move to the side so you guys can see the poster. This here is the movie. This movie came out, like I said, back in 2006. It stars Nathan Basale as the titular character, Leslie Vernon, and Angela Goethals as the other main character, Taylor. We also have appearances from actors Robert Englund, Zelda Rubinstein, and I forget his name, but the actor who played Herschel in The Walking Dead. So, it is not a long movie at all. It is about an hour and 31 minutes. But I'm here to talk about the movie and then give a little review and tell you what I thought of the movie, because I absolutely love this movie. So let's get to the movie. Alright, so the movie itself, it's basically shot, you know, in the vein of a documentary. So basically in this movie here, like I said, it's shot in the style of a documentary, but it's also set in a world basically where, you know, serial killers depicted in famous slasher movies, you know, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Leatherface, are all completely real, which is kind of cool, actually, if you ask me. It's kind of unique to do something like that, because I've never really seen anything like that before. I'm doing a review of a horror movie while I'm wearing my Jack Skellington t-shirt. Makes no sense. Anyways, let's move on with the plot. So the film opens up basically with a waitress taking out garbage from a little diner that she works at. While she's taking out the garbage, she's being watched. She's being watched basically from afar. It is then revealed that, you know, 3 college students are filming a documentary about a serial killer named Leslie Vernon, as he plans, you know, his big night, his Christmas, you know, his Friday the 13th and all that. So, basically, the 3 college students filming the documentary, they're led by their journalist, who goes by the name of Taylor Gentry. She's her lead character, and her 2 cameramen, Doug and Todd, if I'm not mistaken. So, they document the preparations that Leslie goes through, and as he prepares to join the ranks, basically, of, you know, the other slasher villains. You know, like Michael and Jason, because that's who he wants to be like. So Leslie, basically, in the movie, takes his identity from, like, this, I think, urban legend about a kid who, I don't know, he was killed by his family or something, and he was cast into the river. No, sorry, he killed his family and was cast into the river by angry townsfolk for what he did. Basically, you know, the story goes that he comes back as a vengeful spirit and is killing people. So that's where he gets his identity from, Leslie Vernon. So basically, we are then shown that Leslie must actually rely on, you know, quote-unquote conventional tactics, rather than, like, supernatural spooks and jump scares and all that. So he, like, in the documentary, he basically reveals his training methods to the camera crew and the journalist, which is cool because he's, like, doing cardio and you know, all this stuff, and he's like, cardio, man, kicks your butt. It's really funny, that scene, actually. So basically they film his meticulous preparations to slaughter a number of teenagers in an abandoned house, and then be confronted by basically the survivor girl whose name is Kelly. You find out. So Taylor and the cameraman, they basically follow Leslie as he stalks Kelly, a high school girl, which is his final girl he spoke about. Which you also find out Kelly is the waitress at the beginning of the movie who was taking out the trash that he was stalking. That's his final girl, and he starts watching her and her friends. So basically, Kelly is like kind of spooked by this, so she ends up going to the library to kind of like do homework, and she also, but at the same time, she starts doing some research on Leslie, and that she discovers that she's being stalked by him, only to have him show up that night at the library and like really go around with her, you know, like he's really f***ing with her. It's messed up, guys. It's creepy too, but you know, and yeah, at this moment, a man in a basically like a raincoat, tries to stop Leslie. He's kind of like a Dr. Loomis character, but he has no success at all. This is where like Leslie basically realizes that he has his own Dr. Loomis, or as he calls it in the movie, his own Ahab, named Doc O'Halloran, and he's portrayed by not Leslie Vernon, that's the main character. He's portrayed by Freddy Krueger himself, Robert Englund. Yes. And he's trying to stop Leslie from committing all these murders, basically, which is, why not? That's a different role for Robert Englund, and it's kind of cool to see him in that. So after this happens, the following like day or two later, Leslie basically invites Taylor and the cameraman over to his friend and mentor Eugene's place for like a little barbecue and for beers at his friend Eugene's home. So basically when they go to Eugene's home, I hope you guys are still following me. I know there's a lot to take in right now and I'm doing this very short, but while at Eugene's home, it's basically revealed that Eugene is the serial killer from, he's a serial killer from the past. He was basically a serial killer before Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger got their start. And you come to find out that he was known as Billy, who was eventually the serial killer from Black Friday. Not Black Friday, sorry, Black Christmas. Same time around, I guess, right? So Leslie mentions to Eugene that basically he has an Ahab trying to stop him, and they cheer, laugh, have beers, and, they go home after that. So, yeah. So I hope I haven't lost any of you guys so far. You come to find out that Leslie Vernon, who initially claimed that he was a vengeful spirit, you kind of figure it's BS because, he's a normal man. But his name's not actually Leslie Vernon, though. His name is actually Leslie Mancuso? Yeah, and apparently he was actually like a mental patient. So this reveal basically causes tension between Leslie and the main girl Taylor, because they start kind of having a bond with him. It's a really messed up bond, but they're following him and making the documentary, and they are having fun with him. So yeah, it really kind of causes a little rift between them, finding out that he's actually named Leslie Mancuso, and yeah, but things are finally smoothed over when he kind of mentions to her, hey, listen, it may not be Leslie Vernon, but I'm still this guy that you're filming. Everything I've told you is true. So they smooth things over, and they continue on with the documentary. So then basically, Taylor and her crew continue to show enthusiasm for this project. Meanwhile, they're sort of like helping him prepare for his big night, which is kind of like, even if you're doing a documentary, don't help a serial killer. It's like, you're kind of going to be an accessory to murder, but that's my opinion, basically. So, so they're helping him prepare for the big night, and as Leslie mentions before the whole night starts, he goes, "It's going to get wet in here tonight. Lace up your boots, kiddies." I don't know, that's always like kind of made me laugh, that part, so might just be a little sick, twisted sense of humor, but Anyways, so goes for the big night. He's preparing, he's putting himself on, his makeup and his flame retardant Vaseline, I guess you call it. And he's ready for his night. So, but the thing is, the Taylor and the cameraman, their consciences basically catch up with them at this point, and they're like, we don't really want to have a part in this anymore. We don't really want to see all these kids get murdered. So, they basically beg Leslie to call off his killing spree, but Leslie is too, what's the word, headstrong, he's very adamant about doing this because this is his Christmas, like I was saying before, believing that his survivor girl will basically define herself by facing him. So, Taylor and the cameraman, they basically abandoned their documentary, and at this point of the movie, things shift gear from documentary style to flat out slasher movie. It's like a freaking actual movie at this point because the documentary's done being filmed, and this is where it starts to hit the fan. So, that being said, now that it's done and they're no longer doing the documentary, Taylor basically tries to... Well, she goes to the teenagers, including Kelly, and, tries to gather them together and be like, hey, we need to get the out of here. He's coming to kill you all. Yeah, so basically, but the thing is, they can't really fight him off, though, because everything that he's prepared for, or everything he's watched these kids do, has basically given him, the upper hand on them. So, he's gonna overpower them, basically. So the group then basically looks to Kelly for leadership, but in a weird twist of events, Kelly, who was supposed to be the survivor girl, ends up getting killed by Leslie Vernon. I know, right? Wasn't she supposed to be the survivor girl? Isn't the virgin always the survivor girl? Kelly was actually not a virgin. That's what you come to find out when they ask her, aren't you supposed to be a virgin? She goes, no, I've been having sex for years. So it's at this point that guess who finds out she's actually the survivor girl? Taylor! If you followed this so far, Taylor and the cameraman were the crew doing the documentary on Leslie Vernon. Taylor is your survivor girl virgin. She discovers this and realizes that she was Leslie's true survivor girl all along. She's the one that has to stand up to Leslie and face him. So, Leslie, continues his killing spree, picking off everybody one by one, until basically Taylor's left standing. She faces Leslie and basically defeats him in the exact same manner that he basically laid out and said, this is how my survivor girl is going to defeat me. Then she basically, they have a chase ensues through the cornfield, leading up inside the shed. So she basically, crushes Leslie Vernon's head with, I don't know what it is, but it's this compressor thing, and she crushes his head and sets the barn on fire and walks out, basically surviving. She basically, as she's walking out, she's greeted by Doug, one of the cameramen who survives, and Doc O'Halloran, who basically was his Dr. Loomis, Robert Englund again. And they survived their encounters because they tried to stop him too during the night of the killing spree, but you think that Leslie kills them, but no, they survive. But here's the thing, though. Leslie, in his preparations, included learning how to basically fight off death. Like I mentioned before, he slathered flame retardant Vaseline on him. So, credits roll. It's the end of the movie. Over the final credits, man, you hear one of my favorite songs of all time, Psycho Killer by Talking Heads, is played over the credits. Such a phenomenal song. I love it so much. And actually, over the end credits, you see the body bag being wheeled into the morgue. And the coroner, who I believe is a cameo by Kane Hodder, who played Jason Voorhees, which is really cool. He unzips the bag, turns around. Leslie Vernon's charred body rises up. And he gets up, grabs the corner from behind and slices his throat, and that's like the end of it. So what did I think? I thought it was a fantastic movie. It's definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. I absolutely love this movie. I cannot recommend it enough. If you can, please go pick up a copy of Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. It's an incredible film. It is already 11 years old, but you know what? It's one of those little known, underrated horror movies that I can put up there with. Like, I love Halloween, and I'm gonna put this movie up there with Halloween. That's how much I love this movie. Definitely, I give it it's a 10 on 10 for me because it's such an incredible movie. Do yourself a favor, check out Leslie Vernon, whether it be online, streaming, whether it be renting it, buying it, iTunes, whatever you can do. Check out Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, especially if you're a huge horror movie fan. Please go check out this movie. It is worth it. It's amazing. Yeah, I can't recommend it enough. Behind the Mask, Rise of Leslie Vernon, 10 on 10. Fantastic movie. Guys, the lights are flickering. I've told you guys about the Rise of Leslie. I don't understand what's going on. This is really creepy, guys. Who's doing this? Nosferatu.